In 1766, three Spanish Capuchin monks came and settled where New Roads, Louisiana is now located. They built St. Francis Church over there, but the frequent floods would wash away the resting bodies in the cemetery. They then moved the cemetery over to the Felicianas on the eastern bank of the Mississippi River. Then people came and settled in the Felicianas. The people then started construction on Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church in 1871.
Well, let's start with why it's called St. Francisville. It's called St. Francisville because there used to be some Franciscan monks, friars across the river here, and they would come over here to bury their dead, which was right up here on the hill. They had some property down on Thompson Creek that was given to them by Spanish grant. And they built a church there, and it's still, someone tells me, I didn't find a cemetery out there. The church burned, and so they had Acadians that came up here, and they took care of the Acadians. They lived along Thompson Creek. They call them Cajuns today, but they were Acadians then that Governor Miro, back in the 1700s, they brought them from Nova Scotia. And they had English-speaking priests, and they were Spanish, they were French. So the Franciscans would come from across the river to take care of them, and the church burned, and so they left. There was no priest here. But the history and the remembrance of those Franciscans stayed and didn't become a real town. It was first of all Bayou Sara. And Bayou Sara was where they used to come, but it was down the hill from here on that level ground going to the river. And that was called Bayou Sara. And that was the site of a former French post, a French fort. And it was one of the stopping points along the river for trade, that the boats coming along the river would stop there at Bayou Sara and do their trading with the cotton and lumber and other things that they'd sell and go on to New Orleans. So Bayou Sara was quite a little town. It was thriving. I have a map of Bayou Sara. This was the town of Bayou Sara. And they had a public square, and here was the river going all around it. And there's a little Bayou Sara coming into the river. So that's why it was called Bayou Sara. And of course that doesn't exist anymore. Here's another picture of that Bayou Sara. But the name stuck. And so you'll still see a sign on the road out here where Bayou Sara was as you go down the hill and off to the plain. So as time went on, people began to get property over here, and they built their homes, they built plantations, and the priests from across the river would continue to come over here. But then Jackson developed when the railroad came in there, and Clinton and Port Hudson, all those places began to develop, but there was no same town here except for Bayou Sara. Later on, they had the town up here and a town down there, so it was a joint venture. And they called this, because of the Franciscan burial grounds here, they called it St. Francisville. And so that's the unique part about it. And people are very proud of that name today. Although the history of St. Francisville goes way back, because priests would stop here as a mission, and he would baptize, he would bury the dead, and marry people. But the priest took care of Clinton, Jackson, and Port Hudson, and Olive Branch, which was on one of those other roads down there. So he was very, very overwhelmed with the missions that he had. And then one day the people bought this hill, and that was in May of 1871. And they had a new archbishop in New Orleans called Perche. And that's the one I'm writing about right now. And he made his official visit up here, and told the people, hey, you own that property, build a church up there. There was no church here. And you know what he did? They built this church, the same church that you go to Mass with on Sunday. That's the church that they built in 1871. It was completed in 1874.
My name is Marcia Savage. I'm a member of Our Lady Mount Carmel Catholic Church. I'm able to pray to God and Jesus. It also helped me love Christ more than I used to. Being a member makes me learn more about the Roman Catholic religion at our CCD classes for kids. On Sundays, I can show my love for Mary, Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit. I love my church.
Well, this church is the Catholic presence in West and East Feliciana parishes, civil parishes. So we are the Catholic parish that helps to provide the Catholic faith and the teachings of the Catholic faith and the sacraments that we participate in the Catholic faith, most notably Holy Eucharist. We provide that for the families here in West Feliciana, as well as some of those that are over towards East Feliciana. And also, we have a mission church, as our church calls it, which is in Jackson. It's Our Lady of Perpetual Help. It's not a separate parish as Mount Carmel is, but is our mission church. And so we do combine things with the people over in Jackson, Louisiana, which is in East Feliciana Civil Parish. So we share all of our religious education, we share our choirs, we share our service groups such as Knights of Columbus. So all that is shared under one large parish of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Well, the congregation is rather small in terms of overall numbers of families when you compare it to some of the parishes maybe in Baton Rouge, but we're a very, I think, unique and diverse group because we have several different segments of types of families here in terms of you have some of the families that grew up here are native to St. Francisville, and those that are native to Jackson, about 8 miles away. And then you have others that have moved up here from Baton Rouge, maybe to retire, because this is a community area that has a lot of people that perhaps grew up in Baton Rouge or the surrounding areas, and they've come up here and they have retirement homes here, and they live here full time, so they have become part of this parish as well. And then you also have a smaller group that actually has maybe camps and things like that up here, that they'll just come up on the weekends at times. And so they're from Baton Rouge or surrounding areas. So they're not officially parishioners, but we welcome them every week as we do all our parish family. So we have a kind of an interesting group of natives from St. Francisville with families growing up here and kids such as yourselves going to school here, as well as some older people who have retired here, and then we have these groups that come on weekends many times to either come to their camps or hunt or whatever it may be. I've been a priest is going on 4 years now. I'm what you call a second career vocation, meaning that I kind of worked in another field or endeavor before going into the seminary. I am still a physician, and my specialty was radiology, and so I continue to keep up my medical license, although I don't actively practice, but I keep up my medical license by going to some continuing ed, going to school each year for a certain number of hours so that I can keep my license going. So I've been ordained almost 4 years now. Well, I just thank you all for coming, number one, and encourage everyone out there to come and visit our parish. We have a beautiful church here, a very historic church up on Catholic Hill. We welcome people each and every weekend and throughout the year and throughout the weekdays. Our church is always open. There's always a very always a time, I think, for some prayerful reflection, and so we keep it open as much as we can. So everyone is welcome to come by and visit and check out